So speaking of the 80s, let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among
Sure.
Thieves. Yeah, I'll do the synopsis for this, right? So this little preamble, right? Um, it's so amazing, right? That we live in a world where after something like the original Dungeons and Dragons movie from 2000, which
Hmm.
even back then I
Was a
just saw
mess.
it and I was like, nah, this looks like a real shit.
Yeah, it
Sorry,
was terrible.
Marlon Wayans, and I was watching Wayans Brothers at the time. I was watching at the time, but not even you could save what I saw in that trailer, boy. I avoided that movie at all costs. I didn't even watch it when it came on Stars,
It
and
was.
I knew it was bad. I just never
But
watched it.
yeah, it was okay. So it was a kind of fascinating failure because to me, the guy, okay, the backstory behind the thing, the guy. So we won't spend too much time on this, but this guy apparently somehow this nobody got the rights to Dungeons and Dragons, like the film rights. It was super weird. Like how the fuck this man do this? But from what I understand, he kind of in a sense kind of do some sneaky borderline fraud stuff to get it, and to get the movie done as well. And he had like some good people. And well, one of the more famous moments is that apparently Cameron was supposed to do it, but like his
Oh,
one of the
really?
producers, yeah, one of the producers or somebody like that didn't know who Cameron was, and she was like questioning him and telling him, well, "What kind of movie? This is listen, this is 2000, eh? And he's like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
what movies you make? What movies you make? What qualifications you have to make this?" So like, and he was just so insulted, he just walk away. Like, oh
I
jeez,
don't
like,
blame him. I do
yeah, I
not
mean
blame
that's a little fucking ridiculous, right? I mean, come on, right? Whatever. What do you think about it is that it is one of those things that felt like it flew too close to the sun because I watched it. I remember giving it a rewatch. I can't remember when. It was like about 5 or 6 years ago, but for a research project. And when I was watching this thing, and the entire thing in my mind is like, why did he decide to shop this and make it as a movie? Because they could have just shop it for TV, remember at the time you had Remy style productions like Xena and Hercules. They could do that.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
even had knockoffs of that. Like anybody remember the Legend of Sinbad or whatever it is, the Adventures of
right, right,
Sinbad?
right, right,
Right. Yeah.
right. But the whole point is the cheap genre stuff, but with a big name behind it could have worked. And because you would have forgive the bad special effects, you would have forgive because it really felt like watching one of those shows. Like you're watching Mystic Knights of Tyrannogo or some bullshit like that, right? Like it's just super cheap based on
Wow, old
yeah.
school throwback joint right there, boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, but it is super cheap genre fantasy stuff, and you have the D&D name behind it. That's it. And that could have worked, but my boy decided to, make a whole movie though, and get big stars and whoever it is, and yeah, that should just implode completely though. Like my boy, he fly too close to his son. Because when he can get Cameron, he can get other people, and then he himself decided to direct. And like, yeah, he's just complete nobody who pull it off. If I understand, there's some nepotism went down. That's why I saw like some nobody could like get a big role like that, big directing job or something like that. From what I understand, there's some nepo chicanery went down, maybe. But however, yeah, this the Dungeons and Dragons franchise is quite popular. It's arguably the most popular tabletop game. Much like with Tetris, you know, big history. You know, millions of people know it and play it. Even if you don't play it, you know it. And then it spawned again, much like with Tetris, probably the most influential thing in modern pop culture when it comes to thinking about referencing the role playing genre and what we think about as the RPG. It's this and Tolkien, right? In terms of just what people see to build from and be inspired from. That's it. Uh, yeah. Go ahead now.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. One of these days I should actually watch that old Dungeons and Dragons film, right? And I guess one of the real reasons is because Double Toasted, made fun of it just the other day, right? But anyway, but yeah,
Okay, okay, right.
what I would just say for me with Dungeons and Dragons, right? My introduction to it, weirdly enough, came from a little animated series of the same name, which used to show on EVM, right? That was when I was
Right,
like, oh, Dungeons and Dragons, wow, okay, and that was like a 80s cartoon, right? I
right.
used to watch it, but I don't remember anything from it, to be honest, right? Um, Never play the games, never play the board game, because it just wasn't for me, right? But of course I just knew of its of its influence and whatnot, right? I actually know a guy who was doing a sort of a fantasy-based board game that did owe a lot to Dungeons and Dragons, and that actually made me really understand, yeah, why people love that game so much, right? Of
Yeah,
course,
exactly.
you would see it referenced in many shows quite recently. That last season of Stranger Things, pretty much
Right.
reminded us that yeah, in the 80s, there were a lot of parents who thought D&D was was of the devil, and promoting
Yeah,
Satanism and all that kind of stuff, right?
satanic panic.
Yeah, Satanic Panic. I love how that season zero in on that so much, right? Especially with that group, the Hellfire Club, right? That name and all to become popular, thanks to that season, right? But yeah, just cut to 2023, or I should say 2022, when the first trailer dropped for this, right? And I was like, all right, so okay, like it looked fun. And don't get me wrong, it looked fun, but I was like, but this is like the 2020s though, like we still doing this, all right? Like, anybody remember what happened with the old film? Okay, but we doing this, right? But anyway, and well, the movie came out. I checked it out theatrically, and I will say just right off the bat, that it is absolutely worth checking out theatrically, right?
Yep.
So what it is about, I'll try to say it in a nutshell. We're introduced to the character of Edgin Davis, who's played by Chris Pine, right?
Right.
Um, he was a former member of this group called the Harpers. Is like this group of like peacekeepers, right? Like the secret order, if you will, right? So they're not assassins per se, but they do little jobs, and just to ensure that there's right, mean in the world, right? Or whatever it is, right? But unfortunately, during a mission, his wife is killed, but his daughter survives, and while he's pulling off said mission now, he is captured, right? And alongside him, he has a friend by the name of Holger Kilgore, who's played by Michelle Rodriguez. Yeah, so both of them get captured, and the film opens with them in this prison that, of course, is in by these icy mountains and stuff like that, right? And there's a really really clever and humorous bit involving them, trying to get out, right? The payoff it is absolutely worth it, right? But I'll talk about the jokes in this in a bit, right? So yeah, of course, Edgin's first mission is to find his daughter, right? Kira, that's the name, right? And he
Right.
finds out, well, that the guy that he was working with, by the name of Forge Fitzwilliam, right? Who is this con artist as well, right? Played by Hugh
Right.
Grant. I thought that Hugh Grant,
Right.
I thought that he was real good in this. So
He was
he
great.
played
I
that,
thought he was great in it.
yeah, he played that smarmy
Especially
role.
the reveal at the end with him is great. Like, I thought that was
Yes.
funny and very clever.
It was, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So he pretty much is, yeah, technically he is running this kingdom, right? And
Yeah.
alongside him, he has this red wizard, right? I believe it's the same one from before, this female red wizard, right? But she herself has, goals of her own, right? Sophina, that's her name, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, she pretty much is trying to set up this big attack, if you will, right? It involves her master, right? And it involves the acquiring of human souls, and it's just evil magic shit, right? That's what it is, right? So yeah, while all this is going on now, of course, Edgin is trying to get his daughter back, but he's shocked to find out that yeah, Forge pretty much adopted her, right? And he um does this pretty much his kind of plan and has him kicked out, right? With the Red Wizard herself, right? So yeah, pretty much now the job is just to get back into the kingdom, or sneak back into the kingdom and rescue his daughter, right? But along the way, he runs into an old accomplice by the name of Simon, who's played by
Yeah.
Justin Smith. I thought that he was great
Yeah.
in this as well.
I
Yeah,
heard he was real good in this.
yeah, he's this
He gets a
wannabe.
good arc too.
Yes,
great
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I must say, right? He's this
Yeah.
half elf, half human sorcerer. But yeah,
Yeah.
the joke is that he's not that great of a sorcerer, right?
Yeah.
He also has his ex actually is there by the name of Doric. She is a druid, and she also is a shapeshifter as well. There's a really cool bit involving her turning into various creatures and whatnot that really worked. Yeah, and she has, she pretty much wants to get rid of Forge and the Red Wizard because of something involving her land, basically, right?
She's the Hulk of the group, and that becomes very apparent.
Oh yeah, you're right, yeah. And last but not least, after mentioning this guy, though, because yeah, he for me is the MVP of this whole show. Zenk Yenda, who is played by Regé-Jean Page, right? Who
Right.
is a heartthrob of
Ready Sean
Bridgerton.
Page,
Yeah, right. Which I still have.
Well,
So I've yet to
well, the thing
watch.
with that, right? What I like about this is that when you think about it, we watching the side story. That is in a sense that because he's supposed to be the main character, but they flip it now. like,
Right.
no, right,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's true. That's true.
So
Yeah.
he's like a paladin or something like that, which is like the
Yeah.
most powerful, perfect kind of person. Paladins can do anything. Yeah, they play with it, and I'll mention what why this movie works so well for me. But yeah,
Right.
go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, essentially what we just get is just this old-fashioned fantasy adventure. And I'll just jump into my just quick thoughts. I'm just gonna share here quick before we get to your thoughts, Ricardo, right? And this is one that was way more self-aware than I
Right,
expected, man. You could
right.
tell that the writers and directors, well, that's Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis DeLay. I believe that they had experience. I think they work on the Lego Batman movie or some
Okay,
film,
right,
something
right, right,
along
right,
that
right,
line.
right.
One of those
Which is
meta.
perfect and makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah, and I would say though those two have a bright future, man. You could I saw this review actually mentioned this as well too. But some major franchise needs to rope these guys in, man. It doesn't need to be the MCU, but it could be say Star Wars or somebody. Because these guys just have a lot of talent, though. Not just with the
yeah.
writing, but directing as well,
Well,
though.
they follow. They really feel like a follow up of the what do you call them, the two fellas who do the Lego movie, And yeah, you mentioned
Yeah,
Lego Batman. Yeah, makes sense.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I want to talk about that, after because it's the approach of. Well, I'll get into that when I get into the review. But
Right,
just
sure.
the general conceit of what we call in transmedia. It's not just the fact that all right, it's not just comic books being translated now, but because video games being translated and video games are their own working medium, their own very very direct medium. How that happening, but not just why the Lego movie works so well because it understood the audience. This does the same thing.
Yes.
Like I won't go. I don't think it's as good as Lego movie, but this does that
No,
same.
but
This does that
it's like
same.
two different films, right? But
Right.
they have
No.
similar
Well.
qualities.
Well. Well. It understands the nature of the mindset of why the core thing is so popular in the first place. This really understands why D&D is popular. The sheer optionality of the whole thing. Now, yeah, it caters to the sword and sorcery, but that's not the reason. That's just the soil, right? That the reason why is because D&D is so uh optional. It's so I don't know for the lack of a better term, bricolagic, right? You could apply any concept and mix stuff up and do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, what we get with this movie was just a high special effects, high budget, really fucking good two-player dungeon masters give us a good game. That's what we
Yeah,
got. And
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Go ahead.
But yeah. Really, what makes it work though is the approach it, right? It's just the idea that look, folks, we know it's Dungeons and Dragons, right? We know, like, 3/4 of y'all in the audience have not played this game, but it doesn't matter. What
Right.
matters is that you've seen these things before. You've seen the character that could turn into various creatures. You've seen the paladin. You've seen the bard. You've seen the tough barbarian warrior or whatever. You've seen this before in other fantasy films, right? Whether it's Game of Thrones, whether it's the Lord of the Rings film series, right? You've seen this stuff before, right? But we're just going to have fun with it. We're not gonna, reinvent the wheel or anything like that. But we're just gonna have fun with it, right? And yeah, that's what I got. I got an absolutely fun film. I was laughing, like genuinely laughing at some points. I was concerned for the characters, and that's one thing that really surprised me too. Yeah, I cared about these characters. I gave a shit, right? Yeah, I cared for Edgin because at first I was just thinking, oh, he's just gonna be this swarmy guy who just gonna smile and just talk his way out of certain situations. But no. The man has a really like genuine conceit in terms of getting his daughter back. Um, it's understandable why, slight spoiler, why you see it in the trailer basically, why he always has to plan things out. He's the planner,
Right.
and he
Right.
loves to be that guy who plans things, plan A,
What they
plan
do
B.
with
Makes
him?
sense.
Yeah, what they do with him well, I think. Well, at least what I liked is that he feels like a kind of what's that term others use all the time? A kind of inverted dramedy character. No,
Right.
he's supposed to be the funny guy. At least how they marketed him. But when you get into it, it's a very deadly serious situation he's in.
Yes.
But he's still the funny guy that have to come up with weird solutions to it. And yeah, he kind of like a kind of perfect protagonist for a Dungeons and Dragons movie, right? In that sense, John Page is the stereotypical protagonist. He now
Yes.
works as the self-insert character. Again, if you have a human dungeon master making this thing, what kind of situation you'd put yourself in and how you'd really be in a situation like that, maybe. And they play with that really well, especially the kind of really clever solutions they come up with to solve the problems. Because again, That's Dungeons and Dragons. It's just
Yeah,
weird shit. You know, you do weird shit, and it really feels how they make the decisions. It really feels like the dice roll aspect of it. No, like you
that's
do
right. Yeah.
something weird, and then the characters effectively roll a 20 for the most part. There's this part of the ending that totally feels like that, involving a potato. That's all I'll see.
Oh, yes. I know what you're talking
Right.
about. Yeah, yeah.
And
I know what you're talking
it's totally something that's so unorthodox. But again, if you roll a 20, it works. It works like gangbusters. And because it's so weird, the so-called bad guy, whoever it is, it'll not work for them, and they just come crashing down. That's Dungeons and Dragons. That's pretty
Yeah.
much what it is. Your thing,
Eh,
dice roll,
yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
work. Yes, no, blah blah blah. For me, Dungeons and
Yeah.
Dragons, just thinking about it is the conceit of if you remember that episode of Community.
Oh,
That
gosh.
yes,
Not the paintball episode. No.
no, not the paintball episode. There's a Dungeons and Dragons episode. Great.
Okay. I need to look for that. Yeah. I
That is
forgot about
who the audience is. Those people, how they play the game, how they approach the game, that is the audience. And they really felt like that same spirit. They really captured the spirit of it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Well, you're absolutely right though, because yeah, it treats it kind of reminds you that yes, it is like you're playing the game with your friends, so it's like
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have to do this if I don't want to. I can make this decision too, and the opportunities, the options are endless, basically, right? But yeah, it's just the fun that this movie had. Though. I just love how it just sort of harkened back to classic, films that involve medieval and fancy stuff, right? So I saw bits of Princess Bride in here. I saw
Yeah,
bits of
right.
Dragon Slayer. I saw bits of Monty Python and the Holy Grail in this too. It was just a lot of fun, right? But at the same time, you did have that, moment. You have your serious moments. You had a really convincing villain. At you could say it is Hugh Grant, right? No, but he is just the guy in front, right? He's just he's just the placeholder, basically. I just love how the Swami he is, just how much of a douche he
Right.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, but really, the villain is Sophina, though, and
Right.
I'm not familiar with the actress Daisy Head though, but yeah, I thought like just her look though, and there's this thing that she
Yeah,
does
it
with her
was.
cloak that changes color. Like that was really cool.
Oh,
There's a moment where it changes
yeah.
from black to red, or I think it's the other way around. That was really
Yeah.
cool. I really dug
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? I like also to just quickly, it like yes, it is the typical, I'm the evil,
Well,
wizard, but
she,
there's a reason why. And
right.
that's the one thing I love how the show really like touched on it, even though it's briefly. Yeah, why she would stick with this guy in the first place? Why she would stick with
Right.
this idiot like Forge in the first place? And
Right.
when you see the real reason, like, oh right, I got you.
Well,
I got it.
they make a couple of like conceits towards. I would say it's a conceit because that film was conceits towards old Dungeons and Dragons stuff. But the old film, right, Jeremy Irons' character, she kind of like that, right? She feels
Okay,
like a
okay.
little bit like that, except not as, again. Jeremy Irons was a bit extra in that movie, right? And I'm understating that, right? But like just her right hand man, very similar character. Like that dynamic was very similar. So they clearly was going for that conceit, in that thing. And they even did the whole we call it the quicksand rug thing. They brought that back. I was like, okay, great. I like that. Little small things like that. Like, yeah, I would.
Oh, that was in the original film. Okay, okay.
That was the original film. And it's actually
Right.
a pretty good piece of set, prop design in my humble opinion. But yeah,
Yeah.
at the time.
Right.
And in this day, they make it work as well. So yeah, go ahead.
All right. All right. Well, few things for you. Another thing I really appreciate about this film, right, is that they will throw you the references to D&D, right? Like the Owlbear, for example. Like
Right.
the moment I saw it in the trailer, I knew, okay, that's from the game. I never saw it before, but it's like, all right, yeah, that's from the game. I can accept that, right? So yes, if you're a D&D fan, you will see, certain visual cues. You will actually see like items and objects and stuff like that are lifted from the game, right? But for people like me who never play it, it doesn't matter. It's just, oh, it's magic powers, blah blah blah, and this is how it works, right? And they really make it work, right? And I would say for a film that does not have, the budget of say like a MCU or DCEU film, this looked great though, I must say, right?
They use the
From
special effects smart.
cinematography,
Yeah.
the visual effects handled very well, right? It is still, the whole. I know I'm watching a visual effect, right? That's what it is, right? But
Right,
again, given the genre, it doesn't matter, right? So case in point, going back to Doric, there's a moment where it's just this long take of her just doing these various transformations, and yeah, it worked though. It was really
Yeah.
really entertaining, right? Not mind blowing, but it really worked, right? And I would say, it's not like the most mind blowing show that you'll see, but as far as you just having fun, with the material, but while at the same time, just being a love letter to D&D, while it's just mildly poking fun of itself. Yeah, this totally
Yeah,
works, man. The cast across the board did their thing. I was really impressed by Chris Pine. Um, Justice Smith, who I just always felt was always this side character and stuff like say the Jurassic World sequels. And
right, right, right,
he was good in that Detective Pikachu movie as well, right? But
right,
here
right.
I
Yeah,
just really dug his character here in this new
yeah,
where
I,
it's
I
like
like
yeah,
when he went to
like
this.
I know I have powers and I love how they brought back how they touched that on his ancestry. Like yeah, like
Right.
I'm a long line of sorcerers, so I want to be taken seriously too, but I like that how he becomes the central character here. Michelle Rodriguez, she crushes as well to as Holga. Yes, she was tough and she was a badass, but there's actually some good character development that they give her in terms of
Yep.
her family and background. There's a moment involving her ex-husband. The cameo catch me by surprise. I wasn't really thinking about the actors, only like Nani and like, oh shit, that's you. What? Okay.
Right.
But how it's set up though, it totally works. I would say it's a nice play on Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, the way how they use camera work to show the size of certain characters. That's all I'll say. They really flip that and make it work here. Um the villain is while it's not like while it's not some sort of like three-dimensional villain or whatnot, it works into the context of the story. I just love that yeah, you have appeared with this guy like Forge, right, who could say, yes, you know what I mean, look at me and look at how cool I am and look at how everybody's happy, but he has ulterior motives of his own and they make a lot of sense seeing that he's a cut artist, right? But yeah, and just lastly I'll say to the well, couple the flow of this was very well done as well, man. Just how they went from sequence to sequence. The jokes land for the most part. There's a bit involved with these corpses and trying to acquire information from that though. I picked up on some Naked Gun 2.5 vibes, if you know, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, it just made for a really, really funny bit though. And last but not least, man, I have to give it to Lon Balf though. Came through with a great score for this, right? Nothing too spectacular, but in terms of the whole medieval fantasy vibe of it, it totally works, right? So yeah, this was a film that just had a lot of fun. It just came in with the intention of just having fun with the source material. Again, it's a love letter to the franchise, to the game itself, but we're also having fun with it as well. And last thing I'll say before I get to well, I guess I'll leave Rita till you finish, right? I just love that it was while it did its wink into the camera, it wasn't done in this sort of like crass, or I should say in this sort of sardonic kind of way. It was like,
Yeah, lazy.
yes,
Not too lazy. Not
this
lazy or mean
material,
spirited.
right, mean spirited, like, ugh, this is just so stupid and ugh, you know what I
Right.
mean? It's not like that, right? But you could tell, but you could tell that it was a labor of love. You could tell that these guys really knew the source material. I would say almost in and out, but you could see it on screen though. I could see how it just impacted so much films, even right down to the Legend of Vox Machina, which well, the first season of which
Right.
I
Right.
covered
Yeah,
last
which is
year.
a great
I didn't see the
comparison.
second. Yeah, I didn't see the second season, unfortunately, right? But yeah, you could see just how influential D&D was to something like that, right? And while it's not as crass and vulgar as Vox Machina do, it's still as fun and upbeat as that show was, right? And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I really enjoyed this way more than I expected, right? But yeah,
Right.
Ricardo, your thoughts and then you could get a rating, and then I'll share my
Yeah,
rating
yeah.
after that.
I was going to say it because I almost forgot, but I had to say it. No, this is what Warcraft should have been. In the
Thank
sense
you.
that you
Yes,
have
instead of stopping
right.
to tell we a whole bunch of backstory and making us clear,
Well,
no, just
the problem no, the problem with Warcraft is that they didn't get they had to get what the audience feeling in the conceit because again there's going to be a larger conversation about what I call what we call it this kind of new wave of transmedia that coming up, right, where it's now not just comic books and not just this it's gonna be something that are gonna have you have to compete now not just with a story or narrative but now you have to compete with visuals, right? How you experience something is vastly different. A movie or a TV show is a vastly different feel to a video game or the tabletop RPG and so on and so forth. You gotta say, I'm gonna make a movie, right? You have to now incorporate the, lack of a better term, the subjective feeling, these larger subjective feelings of the thing. And Warcraft, at no point, other than it being a bore and a slug, it you didn't get a feeling of where it is to play the video game, right? Even first person shooters like the Doom thing tried to do the first person shooter thing at one point or something like that, right? Yeah, you get my point, right? And uh, that's what this did. This to me absolutely nailed. I'm glad that you mentioned Legend of Vox Machina because it absolutely tapped into the modern zeitgeist of D&D fandom, right? D&D fandom is a very big audience. I know one guy who's like super into it, and you can understand why D&D is popular as it is. Why is a modern that whole modern bunch of kids really into it, and why it works because it's very well one. It's a conceit of the modernity, not the sword and sorcery, but just the fact that yeah, it's pretty inclusive, and you could gender bend, and you could do this and stuff that just going against general conceits of cliches, right? And whatever it is. And they play with that with this. They had Michelle Rodriguez be Barbarian. They had Chris Pine be this character, but they flipped the switch on him in that way. They had this character do this and so on and so forth. And they made it work in terms of, yeah, it really felt like a D&D crew. That's what it felt like. Because it felt like a bunch of D&D players playing D&D and so on and so forth. And they made it work. It just came together so well. Everybody played their parts and roll well. What the big sell for me is the actual solutions to problems they came up with. So they basically had the portal from Portal, right?
I know, right?
Right.
Well, that's what I was like, word. But I
But
love how they work it in later on in the
thank you.
film. That was
That is
brilliant.
exactly why I like
Brilliant.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Little stuff like that. They brought it in, it solved a problem, and then it solved another problem later. Because yeah, you wouldn't forget you had this amazing fucking ability. They did it, and they did something, and it was something involving treasure, which is hilarious, and they made work. But that also solved another problem in the storyline with that whole last piece of to get the people out of the stadium, right? That worked. It's little stuff like that. Simple, clever writing that tie everything together. And then the final fight itself was actually pretty badass. With everybody, or the entire teaming up to
Yeah,
fight
yeah,
him.
yeah.
And
Teaming up to fight the villain. That was great, though.
right.
Yeah.
I thought, well, there's a really funny part involved with the loot, which I thought was silly. I had me cracking up.
Yeah.
But yeah, they make it work, and then they straight up had something from Avengers. If you know, you do. Um, uh, that was good.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's straight up from the first Avengers movie. But yeah, they make it work. I just everybody played their part. They made it's genuinely charming and funny. Solid story because it didn't feel like it's silly, but at the same time, at no point you get the sense that the stakes are low. They kept it working. Good general conflict. At the end, what they do with Hugh Grant at the end with it is very funny and very clever. Because like, oh shit, this is what going on. That's real funny. Like that's very funny. In the conceit. Because like in a sense he's the dungeon master. If you think about it like that, it's who telling the story. That's the whole what they do with it. But yeah, rating 8 out of 10. I thought this was excellent. I didn't expect to enjoy this as much as I did. The trailers looked good and it was looking a lot of fun. It was just the little silly the special effects look, as I say, you're watching a visual effect. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be super expensive and look amazing, blah blah blah. But it was just serviceable, and I didn't have a problem with any of that. It was like it was distracting or unfinished or anything like that. It looked good, it looked fine. But overall, it's just the charm of it. It set up a good atmosphere. Everybody was funny and worked. It to me understood its audience really well. And bounced off and it really felt like a nice little that tennis game that you just play with your audience and they had it working for what it was, and it wasn't ponderous or a slug or trying to have its head up its own ass unlike Warcraft. That was kind of the problem with Warcraft. Sorry, but yeah, they made it work for what it is, and yeah, I kind of love this. Again, I'm not sure. Again, I don't think it'll be top 10 of the year, but again, the year kind of early. But yeah, it might make an honorable mention. I thought this was pretty fun.
Yeah, I forgot to mention one thing, right? I love how the show itself embraces its absurdity. So I don't want to spoil what like early on what happens with how Edgin and Holger escape, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like these bits where you just see these weird creatures and the show just kind of treats like, yeah, it's a fantasy world. So yes, you will see this bird-headed person or this
Right.
reptilian-like creature. Just roll with it. You know what I mean? Even right down to the dragons themselves, right? It's different, right? But yeah, I just like that they just say, what, it's weird, it's absurd, just roll with it, right? And they just have just roll with us, just have fun with it, right? And yeah, that was just me true and true watching this, right? While it's not up there as while it may not be up there as one of the best things I've seen this year, like you, I may have it as an honorable mention. I will say this though, this is my first guilty pleasure movie of the year. I really do see myself watching this over, just having fun with it, just
Right.
quoting lines and just remembering certain scenes and whatnot, man. I just left with this broad smile on my face. I did not expect this from a movie called Dungeons and Dragons on Among Thieves, man. So rating wise, as a guilty pleasure, I'm gonna give this a decent, a strong 4 out of 5, man. And I'll close with this. It is absolutely worth seeing in a theater with an audience, right? While the
Yeah,
audience that was with me wasn't really that big, they were cracking up just as much as I
yeah,
was.
and
You know,
it
it's
was
just the gags that we were just going with it from start to end. Though. It really worked for me.
yeah, no, it was pretty it's earnest. That is why it worked. It's very earnest. Like again, I don't it doesn't have to be snarky or mean spirited in any way, whilst also still being funny. Now you can do both. You can do both.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. So yes, folks, Dungeons and Dragons on Among Thieves is the real deal. You all need to check this out. You all need to
Yeah,
check this
yeah.
out. Yeah.